Okay, so what actually we have discussed is we just reviewed what actually we have done with use context and the reducer part, like how we could able to achieve the light redux state management, which is by default being supported in your React.js. Okay, and it is not only from the React 19, it is there from the very starting itself. React itself is providing all these features from the starting. Okay, so that is one part, and other part is we started looking into what do you mean by Redux and what do you mean by Redux Toolkit. Okay, so this is a third-party library using which you can do the better state management. We are not saying that we can't do the state management just by only using React, but to do it more better way, more organized way, we are going with something called as Redux state management. Okay. Now coming to the Redux, it is in two flavors. One is the core Redux library and one is your Redux toolkit. So earlier it was Redux, but on the top now what they had done is they added a wrapper on the top of the Redux and provided some more better methods and a bit of change in architecture where they were combining the action and reducer into a single thing, which we call it as a slice part, right? And how do we create a slice? How do we create a store? For that, they have already provided some predefined methods. Okay, so using that, what we have done is we created these three components. These three components want to share a common location or common place to access or store the data. That is what we created like a store. Okay, configure store is the predefined method being coming from your Redux toolkit. Okay, and configure slice. We have not yet created a slice. We just created the store here. After we create the store, how you are going to say that your application or components can access the particular store. So under your app.jsx, we are using a predefined class, which is your provider. For the provider, we are going to pass something called as a store. This is the provider class, which we call it as higher order component. Okay, so there is a set of predefined, not predefined. There is a terminology in your React which we call it as higher order components. What do you mean by higher order component? The component which takes another component as a parameter and the it returns updated component or adding some more information for that. If you remember, we have added our own component, which is a provider component. So provider component itself is a higher order component. Anyway, I will explain this higher order component once again, but just to let you know, where was the previous example? Use reducer, you light redux state management. Light redux, yes. Under this, if you see here, this is the provider component. You see what actually this component is doing is this component is taking another component itself as a parameter, and it is not taking a component as a parameter. Actually, set of components it's taking. Still, we can call it as a higher order component. You see, it is taking a component as a parameter, and in return, it is adding some extra part, which is your data context, and it is going to return back. So these are called as higher order component. Anyway, we will come to that later. I'll give the better definition. We'll create a separate example for that. Okay, so what we have done is under your app.jsx, now we are going with something called as a provider component. For that, I'm going to specify that, boss, whatever the children's you're having inside this, the complete application. As I mentioned earlier, this provider can also be in general when you come to your real time, we go to the main.jsx. Here itself, you are going to specify it as a provider. Okay, that means that everything inside this app, complete application, could able to access the particular store. Okay. Yeah, so everything inside the particular app will be accessing the particular store. Now these components can get the data from the store. These components can update the data in the store also. Okay, so that is how we are going to create it. So right now we have not created anything, just this component 1 and 2 and 3. And now the next step is we have to create the slice. So if you see earlier, we were going with the Redux React Quick Start. If you go to the documentation, so if you go to this documentation, so this is what the step what we followed. Okay, we have installed the Redux toolkit and the React Redux before we get started. And first thing what we did is we have created the store. So we are just following the documentation. Whatever the documentation mentioned, the same thing we were doing. So how you're going to create a store, this is how you're going to configure the store. And the next thing what we need to do is we need to create a slice. Before the slice, you see like how you're accessing the store and how you're providing it to the provider. Okay, that part also we have done. And the next thing is create a Redux state slice. What is actually a slice is combination of uh, action and your reducer. We are not going to have the separate action or separate reducer. That will be part of the slice here. So what actually we have done is we are going to create a slice, and in that file we are going to import the create slice API. So create slice is a predefined method. If you see, when we go to the where is that store? Configure store is the predefined method which is coming from the Redux toolkit. In the same way, create slice is also coming from your Redux toolkit itself. Okay, we are going to create a slice here. So for that, what actually we are going to do is we are going to say import create slice method. Okay, let us go into the slice. We are saying this create slice is a predefined method for this. So what is the next step? So we are going to create a slice here. So for that, we are saying that export default uh, counter slice. I'm just following the terminology what they have given right now. So we say create slice is a predefined method. Okay. Okay, we don't need to say default. Export, say some const or let whatever it is. I'm going to create a slice by using something called as create slice method. As I mentioned earlier, we can have any number of slices within a single application, depending on your requirement. Now, this slice guy is taking an object as a parameter. Okay, this slice method is taking object as a parameter where we need to specify what is the name of the slice, what is the initial state of the slice. Initial state is the store slice, the store, whatever the initial state it has to start with, and what is the reduces. Okay, so three things what we are specifying is we are going to specify the name for the slice, and we are going to specify the initial state of the store, and we are going to specify the reducers as an object again. Are we clear? Okay, create slice method is taking object as a parameter. Under that, we are going to specify what all the things. Now, for the name, we are specifying something called as counter. Okay, initial state, I can say some value is equal to 0, say some counter is equal to say some 10, name is equal to something called as Raj. Like this, you can give whatever the initial stage you want to go for. Okay, reducers is what all the actions you want to go. For example, I say increment. When I have to increment, what is the uh, what is the callback method which has to go for? Say, for example, decrement. What is the callback? Or else, if it is an object directly, we can write like this, right? So decrement like this. For example, update name like this. You can have any number of actions inside this. Okay, so if you see here, that is what they have mentioned. They have mentioned the name, they mentioned the initial state, whatever the object structure you want to go for, you can go for, and increment. On case of increment, what is the job has to go? On case of decrement, what is the job has to go? These all are actions. It's not mandated that every time it has to be increment. That is the reason if you see, what I said is, why is this phrase has come? Okay, what I said is increment. missing any place. Yeah. Increment is one of the user defined method. Decrement is user defined method. Update name is user defined action. So these all are actions, and this guy is going to get the current state. Okay, what is the current state? They are going to get the state data here. If you remember the same thing earlier, we have done something called as reducer. Okay, where reducer was getting two things here. One is the state following with the action. Based on that, we were writing the switch case, right? Action dot type. This is what we used to do in case of your use reducers. Similarly, he is going to have the reducer in such a way that what is the action, and he is going to get the state. Okay. Any questions up to this? So we just created a slice with a name called as counter, and counter slice is a complete slice here. Under that, we specified the initial state, we specified the set of reducers. Reducers is what all the actions you want to perform. Okay. Any questions? And after this, whatever the actions you want to import here, I'm just exporting this. Exporting this increment action. Where is that? Exporting this increment action, exporting this decrement option, at the same time, update name. These all are my actions which I want to export, so that anyone who want to make use of this, they can simply make use of these all actions in their in the component. In the same way, counter slice dot reducer, I'm completely exporting this reducer also to the outside world, so that they can just make use of it. Okay. After this, so any questions up to here? Creating a slice. Pallavi, where we are going to use the slice, I will come to that, Pallavi. Okay, because, okay, where we are using the slice, right? For example, where was that? Paint. Okay, yesterday we have seen this architecture, right? This is the UI. Okay, this is the action, reducer, and store, right? So this is how it is. This is how it is. This is what we call it as view or the UI, and this guy is going to be the store. This guy is going to be the reducer. This is going to be the action. Now what? Sorry. This is going to be the action. So what we mentioned is, boss, in case of your Redux toolkit, this guy is called as the slicer or slice. Okay. Now you tell me, who is using the slice? Who is using the slice, Pallavi? By this architecture, who is going to make use of the slice? Come on, Pallavi, you're there. I mean, it's a question. Do you understand or not? Who is going to make use of the slice? Okay, anyone tell me, like, who is going to make use of the slice here?
Store component.
Sorry?
Store.
The store is the one who is going to make use of the slice, right? Under the store, we are going to specify that, okay, what slice it has to make use. Okay, let us come back to this. You see here, that is what he has mentioned. The next thing is add the slice reducer to the store. So we need to specify that boss store guy. This is the slice reducers to which you have to make use. Now, when I'm coming back to this store again, earlier, in case of your store, where is that? In case of your store, you simply said like reducer, that's it. We haven't specified what is the reducer you need to use. Now I'm going to specify that boss counter reducer is the one what you're going to make use. It is coming from the slice. Okay. So now I simply say reducer is going to be the counter reducer. And where this counter reducer is coming from, I say import counter reducer from dot slash slice. It is default what we did, right? Counter slice reducer. It's a default. Yes. You see here, that is what the slice which is being used. Now, under the store for reducer, we have specified that boss, this is the counter reducer, what you're going to make use. Now, when this reducer is being exposed to the store, now any component which is using this store, they can do the actions using that reducer itself, right? Okay, if you see here, when this UI, now this slice is been given to the store. Now store will be accessible by the view. Okay, the data which is inside the store will be accessible by the view. Now, anytime you want to do any actions, we will be doing through the slice again. And through what? To the reducer. Okay, let us see the process. Okay, so this guy is done. We have linked the store. The third step, what we have is adding the slice reducer to the store. Okay, this is done. What is our next step? Now, use Redux state and action in the React component. Now, we have configured that. If you remember, this is the place. So yesterday we were discussing, right? This is one of the application which might be having a header, which might be having some different components, and all these components want to share the data as a common. Now what we are doing is, this is the separate store location what we are creating through Redux. And now what we are saying is, we are asking any component want to make use of this store data, they can directly put it over here or interact over here. Now this red location, the red box, whatever the memory location we have, we are already done with that. That is what we are saying, like store has been created. In order to do any actions on the store, reducers, those all things are also got ready for us. Now what the simple thing is, now let the component start accessing this data. So how these components are going to access this data? You see here what actually they are doing. Assume like counter is one of the component. What all they are doing here? The first thing is use selector and use dispatch are the predefined methods which is been coming from your React Redux library. Okay, so why we use this? In order to do the dispatching and all. If you remember, in case of your use reducer, we used to say something called as const. Const, we used to get something called as state, and dispatcher is equal to use reducer. And use reducer is going to be passed with reducer along with initial state. This is what we used to do. Yes or no? Yes, right? This is how we used to work with your use reducer in order to do the statement. The same thing, instead of you manually having your own dispatchers, you manually defining these use reducers, this is by default been given from your React. So Redux has given some two predefined components, hooks here, which is use selector and use dispatch. So I'm going to import them first. Okay, I'm going to component one. Okay, I'm going to the component one. So here I would like to make use of this, what do you say, getting the data. Assume like I'm not going to do the dispatch initially. Use selector is to read the data from the, we can say this, use, okay, let us see the methods what we have seen. Coming to the configure store method to create a reference or create a reference to the store. And the second thing is create slice method to create a slice. And here for this configure store, reducer is mandate field to be passed. If we don't pass the reducer, it is not going to work. That is the reason earlier when I was creating the store, I just kept the reducer as an empty object. Okay, so that is a mandatory field. Now on the top, use selector. Use selector pre uh, predefined hook being supported in Redux used to access state data from store. Okay, this guy is capable of using the data from the store. Whereas use dispatch through which we can dispatch actions from the components. So first of all, I'm not going to implement any type of dispatchings here. My expectation is I want to read the data. That's it. So how you're going to read the data? You see here, count equal to use selector state dot counter dot value. That's it. Now what I'm saying is I'm coming to my component one. I'm saying like, what is my counter? My counter is go to the current state and get the state dot counter dot value. What is this state dot counter dot value here? If you see what is the name of the slicer we have given, counter. Under that, what is the value you have? Assume like I'm saying it as 100. Now I want to access this value. So I simply say like counter state dot counter dot value. And what is the counter value here? I simply say count. Okay, this counter data is actually coming from the what do you say? This is actually coming from the store. Now let us save this, come back and reload the page. State is not coming. Why the reason? State dot counter dot value. Okay, what are we missing here? Decrement, increment, because we are not doing any actions. We don't need to do that. You simply say dispatch, use dispatch. Dispatch is only if we go to do any actions. Right now, we are not doing any actions. Am I missing anything? Haven't I saved it? How the state is linked through the use selector. I will come to that, Swati. I will explain that. That is where we have added this store right now. When I have already added this component inside this provider, obviously I could able to access the store, right? That is how it has been linked to all the components inside this provider. So I'm capable of accessing that store. Reduces.
Where you are passing that initial state.
1 second. Yeah, I see something is missing here. Okay, I'll say state dot value equal to state dot u plus 1 for now. Decrement.
Here in create slice, you wrote reducers now,
Okay,
and
one
you are
second.
exporting their uh, counter slice dot reduce only.
Counter. Okay, okay, where actually it is. So it is reducers what we have created. Yes. And while exporting, I'm exporting the counter slice dot reducer. So that is what we have to do, right? It is not like dot reducers. I mean, it doesn't mean that it is this key. I mean, it automatically knows that what is the reducers which has to be exported. Okay, it is not like this key we are going to specify. It is not like I will say ABC, then it will be counter slice dot ABC. No, it's a predefined key there. When you say counter slice from the particular slice, the reducer will be automatically exported. That is how it is.
There S is there, sir,
Uh,
reducers and here
that is what I
reduce.
said, right? It is not the key what actually we are giving. It doesn't mean that now I say ABC, here you say ABC. No, when I say dot reducer, there is a predefined feature will come into that. Now, when you say this counter slice, right? When you console this counter slice,
Sir, that line number 10, we have reducers. And line number 27, only reducer.
that is
Extra.
what I'm
Is this
explaining,
correct?
right? That is what I'm explaining. When you go with the counter slice, right? Whatever the slice we have created, let's import this. If you see, name is there, actions is there, and the reducer is there. You see how, no, I have not created any actions. I have not created any injection intro. I have not created any get selectors, get initial state. So this method, create slice method, will return an object to that. Under that object, there will be a key called as reducer. You see, this is the reducer what we are returning.
No,
Am I
store
clear?
is not defined. Store.
No, I'll come to that. Are you guys clear? Whoever have asked for this.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what is that? What is the store you are saying? But what line number you are saying?
No, configuring store dot file is there, right? There
Okay. So
store you have not mentioned, so that's why that value is not coming.
okay, the store value is not coming.
Yeah, store
Store,
equal to configure.
we don't need to mention the store for the. Okay, first thing what we have done is we create a slice. The slice will be passed to the store. We simply say that, okay, using what slice you're going to, again, what is a slice here? Combination of actions and the reducers. That is what we pass to the configuration store. And this store is accessible, is being given directly to the provider, right? So here we are saying
Yeah.
that all these guys are going to access this. Okay, we have already done that.
Mm,
Okay, let me check once
Like
again.
from where that in store.js the counter reducer is coming from? Because we wrote there counter slice now. We are taking that counter reducer.
Okay, so okay, here you're saying that. Are you saying line number
No,
27?
no. In
In
store.js,
In store.js, okay.
counter reducer.
here we wrote like counter reducers.
That is slice name.
That is a slice name what we gave, right?
We
Counter, sorry.
counter slice we gave the slice name. That's why there I think there
Counter slice.
His name is counter is there.
Sir, in store we have
Actually, we need to specify the reducer. We don't need to specify the slice. Okay, let me recheck here once. So what
we are
actually,
importing from dot slash slice.js.
no, one second. Let me.
Sir, in store.js file, reducers,
So if you
inside
see,
reducers we have
what
counter.
actually we are doing is, while we are configuring this, okay, under the reducer, we need to specify the name that we have missed. You see, the reducer has to be an object inside the store.
Yes.
Okay, what we have done is directly we have given the reducer here. The reason is under this reducer, we can have n number of things. Right now, we said like counter is the name for which this is the reducer what we are using. In future, say for example, cart update, he will be having a different reducer. Okay, like this, you can have n number of reducers. So that is the reason it has to be like object with key and its corresponding reducers.
Sir, the counter reducer, what is it? Go in that slice file. Is it there?
Counter reducer, it will
Is there
automatically get these reducers here, right? I mean, whatever the reducers which you are exporting default,
Okay.
okay,
Default
these
reducer.
default will be automatically coming into the counter
Yeah.
reducer. You can put whatever the name you want.
Okay, that it will import the default things, right?
Yes, it will import those reducers and it is going to give the name here.
Okay, okay, got
So
it.
we can write here anything like import ABC from dot
Yes,
Yes,
yes. If you say import, I'll say something called as testing, and this testing is the one what we have given. It'll be done.
So that means that line number 2 is like to import the whole slice in
No.
store.
That line number 2 is importing the default reducers. You see, we have mentioned it as default. If I don't give the default, it's not going to work. Because when I'm saying if I say default, I mean whatever the reducers you have. Okay, if I don't have to use the reducers, you know what I have to do? I have to say var, or else I have to say export user reducers, export var user reducers is equal to counter slice dot reducer. Give these guy into one of the variable. Now what I have to do is I have to say import user reducers from so and so. That is what I need to do. Instead of this, I'm simply saying like what all the default reducers you're defining under this slice, you give it to this counter. Did that make clear?
Yeah.
Everyone? Any
Line
questions?
number
Yes,
6.
sir.
Yeah, we'll go file by file. The first thing is any questions in this store. Line number 6,
If we
somebody
don't
say.
define as counter, if we use any other variable.
This counter is okay. This is the counter through which you are actually accessing this data. You see state dot counter. I mean, because as I mentioned, right? Inside a single store, you can have a number of subparts. For doing the counter, we are doing this guy. I say something called as update cart. Okay, for this guy also, assume I have given the same reducer. Assume. In general, we don't give two references for the same reducer. But for example, for updating the cart, I have given what is reducer? Set of all the actions, right? Now, all the actions which are doing this counter value that we have added inside this. All the actions for updating the cart item we have added in this. All the, for example, user profile update, you have something called as set of reducers. So you can give whatever the reducer you wanted. Assume like right now I'm doing this. In general, we don't give multiple references for the same reducer. Assume like update cart is there. Now I'm coming over here. I say state dot update cart dot value. It should work. You see, it is working. I could able to get the 100 value. Why so? I mean, because you have given the reference of this reducer as updating the cart. Did that made clear or any questions here? Here it is not predefined. You can give whatever the name you wanted. Just for updating the counter or updating the user details, whatever you want, all the reducers are being referred into this so that a state variable will be created for this, whatever the name you are giving. I mean, under this, for example, under this store is the place where we are actually storing the data. Again, under this store, we are creating sub blocks, a set of block where we are storing only the product details, a sub block where we are storing the user details, a sub block where we are going to store the session information, etc. and all. Now, how we are giving the names for these blocks? That is what I'm saying. Under this block, whatever the data has to be there, it is under the counter with all the reducer. Now under this state, it will be store dot state dot counter dot the value inside this. Is it clear?
So that means every time we have to use the only single slice. So for example, for the update cart. So in for that.
Are you sure saying that single slice? Can't I say import some user profile reducer from dot user profile slice, I will say, and I will give this reducer for this user profile. Now in my component, I will say state dot user profile update dot so and so.
So that means we can create a number of slices.
N number of slices. We'll have one store under that is what I'm saying, right? Now, the reason why we are calling this as a slice is set of related things will be a one piece of block. Now, when I'm going for a one bigger web application like Amazon, I can't store every other data. Like for example, we were talking about the mall, right? For example, I'm going for a big mall. Under mall, I want to store some data. You have one big store. Doesn't mean that everything will be added there. Yes, I have one big room for all the store. Now, under that, I'm dividing the data here. Okay, one piece of block responsible for storing the security information. One piece of block responsible. This is individual slices we are creating inside the store again. Is that clear? So you can have any number of slices inside one single store. Now, what if like I want to create a different store itself? It's up to you. You can create a different store also. But in general, it is recommended when you go to the real time, create one single store. Under that, create different slices. That will be done, right? Assume like you have one big place. Okay. Assume like you have one big place where I want to store some data. Now, under one big place, what I am saying is create a complete big godowns, okay, big shed or very big room here. Now, under this big shelter, now you create your big rooms. Instead of that, what if you say, no, I will create different shelters here. Under that, I want to create a room. It is not necessary, right? Make it one single store. Under that, create different slices. No, I want to go with different stores inside a single application. It's up to you. Any questions in this particular file?
Actions will define in the this slice.js file, sir.
Yes, that is where you need to be clear with the architecture. You see, under this slice, what all the things will be having? We will be having the actions and the reducers. If we go into the slice, that is what we are doing. In the slice, we are never mentioning that you belong to the particular store. You see, did I ever specify that what is the store you're going to make use? No. Directly to the store, I'm specifying that what is the slice you want to have to make use. Any questions still in this only store.js? Again, I will go back to the slice.js, but are we clear with the store.js?
Sir, in line number 6, you have counter. This
Yes.
counter need to be the same name which we gave in the slice.
No, not on the slice. That is what I said, right? If that would be the same number, then how come I said like state.update cut?
No, sir. In store.js, that line number 6 is there now. The
Okay,
same
in the
is there in
slice,
slice.
we gave the different
that
name, right? This name is not at all useful. We are not going to make use of that guy. Okay, for example, I'll say this guy, the counter 1. Okay, and this guy, it is counter. Coming to the store, we made it as counter. Okay, come back here. Could I able to access 100?
Yes.
Now that name is actually coming from this guy. Under the reducer, what is the name through which you're going to access the data under this reducer?
So then what
Clear?
is the use of their names?
I mean, in general, right? For example, when you're creating multiple slices, how do you get the name? If you see, when I'm consoling this slicer guy, right? You see, to refer this, where is that? To refer these guy, we will be generally using a name. For example, I will go with another slicer. Okay, I'll say user profile update. Okay, so what will be the name for that? I'll say something called as profile updating. Okay, save this. Now let us console this. Console log this profile update. Now when I come back, you see, reload the page. You see, this guy is one of the slice whose name is profile updating. This guy is one of the guy whose name is counter. Just to differentiate this guy, we were using it. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So in store, we are importing and giving some name. That name we need to refer in the objects in
Okay,
store.
first thing, right? We are creating a store. Store is this bigger space. You see this bigger outer box, whatever we created, that is the store. Later, under the store, we need to mention a single slice through which we are going to access the data, right? So first thing is create a store, just a reducer will be there. That's it. Now later we need to say that, okay, under that guy, what all the data we'll be accessing. If you see here, I'm not directly saying that state dot value, state dot counter, in the sense this guy. So let me
Store.
let me make it as a different box. Now what I'm saying is, this is a big store. Okay, this is a Redux store. Under this store, everything, whatever you have, is a state. Under that, now we are creating individual boxes and we are giving names for this, something called as counter. Okay, I'll give a different box where I will call this guy as session, something like this. Now, any data, what you define inside this, assume like under the state, you have something called as A as 10. Now, the data, if you have to access A, what I'm going to do? From the Redux store, state dot counter dot A. Are we clear?
Yes, sir. Good.
Okay, so that is what I'm doing here.
So
And if
in
at all I have to
import,
get the data, one second, sorry. So if at all I have to get the data from somewhere, assume like he's been given, okay, session is the one we gave the name, right? Okay, so session is the one we have, and this guy is going to be B. Now his guy is going to have some 30. Now if I have to access the value of 30 here, what I'm going to do? State dot session dot B value. So I mean from a different slice, through a different slice, you're going to receive the data.
okay.
Okay, go ahead, please. Someone asking a question.
We have done export default, so we can only export only one slice. So how we can do multiple?
Coming to the slice, you're saying like default, this guy, right?
Yes, sir. We have done.
Come on, I have done line number 29 also. That is what I said. Luckily, I have one single slicer. That is the reason I have done. Otherwise, you keep all the reducers into one single variable. Now, how you're importing there? You will be importing there as import use reducer. In the same way, second reducer, like here, I'll say reducer 2. You're going to do this. In general, another part is we generally create one single slice for one single file. It is not recommended to create multiple slices into one single file. But again, it is not a blocker. You say that, no, I still want to create two slicers in the one single file. You create it. Then in that case, don't make it as default. You create them as individual variables. Then you export them. Got your answer? Yes, no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Sir, actually, in the component one, can you please go to component one?
Okay, I'll come to that. I haven't gone till the component one. We'll go step by step if it is okay for you. Okay, we are done with the store. We are coming. Okay, let me answer your question, then I'll get back. Okay, tell
Yes,
me.
sir, actually, in this component one, we don't import any store here. But how can I access the state values, sir, using the use selector?
If I again have to import the store, why the reason I would have done this?
Okay, okay, sir, this is fine. But what about that line number one in the component one? You have import something, huh? Use
Line
selector.
number, use selector. As I said, right, what is use selector? Using predefined hook in Redux used to access the state data from the store.
Predefined. Okay.
While creating the component itself, I say that, boss, you have an accessibility to the store.
Yes,
Anytime I wanted, I'll say use selector. Now the use selector method know to which store I have to go and I have to get the data.
okay, okay. Got it.
Okay, so coming back to the slice here, any questions in the slice?
Sir, line number 25.
Line number 25.
No, 23.
Okay.
23. Sir, counter slice dot actions.
Sorry, line number 23, counter size dot action. Okay, now this guy, anytime I want to do, I mean, all the actions, whatever is part of this, because I want to do some increment to this value. It is 100. I want to update it. How you're going to do that? So I need to have that increment action, right? So that is the reason counter slice dot actions. If you is the console is there, you see here. It has automatically come into the actions. If you see here, we have defined it under reducers. This is what your Redux toolkit was doing. If it is a Redux guy, we were defaultly giving like reducers and actions and all, but the Redux toolkit creates slice what actually this guy is doing. He is keeping all the user defined actions into a key called as actions. And that is what I'm exporting, so that anyone who want to do any action here, he will simply say dispatch increment, automatically done. Dispatch decrement, automatically done. Dispatch update, automatically done. I will show you an example, Swati. Okay. Shall I show that? I mean, right now we have seen like how to access the state data. Now you see, for example, okay, now we have come to we will go to component 2. Component 2 guy want to access the value here. What is the very simple thing he has to do? He has to say that, boss, I have to get the counter value is equal to use selector. Under that, I'm going to specify what is the value which need to be accessible, right? And where this use selector is coming, import use selector from React Redux, and whatever the counter value I wanted, I simply say counter value. Save this, come back. What happened? Missing semicolon.
Extra bracket you use.
Extra braces I have used. Okay. Save this, reload the page. You see counter 2 also got updated. Okay, he could able to also access the data. Now, when I come to counter component 3, my expectation is not to access the data. I will say you have a button, update or increment value, I'll say. Increment value. Okay. My requirement in component 3 is when I say increment value, this guy has to be a 101, this guy has to be 101. I mean, it has to get updated. At the same time, counter 3 also. Counter 3, I'm not accessing it. It's not mandated that I should not access it. If you want to access, you can access. But my expectation is I want to do only the action here. Then first thing is, if at all I have to do the action, what I need to do? Import, use, dispatch from your Redux. If I have to access the data, let us go back to the running notes. What is use selector? Predefined hook to access the store data. What is this use dispatch? Through which you're going to dispatch the actions. Okay, now I'm coming over here. I am going to make use of use dispatch from your Redux. But what actions I have to make use? I need to import what? I need to import from this slice. What all the actions here? Increment is the action I'm going to import from dot slice. Dot slash slice. Okay. Now I simply say whenever I'm going to do some on click, handle click, handle click. What this guy is going to do, he simply say something called as use dispatch this increment. One second. I missed some of the action here. Sorry. I have to say where dispatcher is equal to use dispatch. Okay, I simply say dispatcher this increment. Okay, let us save this, come back and let's see what is going to happen. Reload the page. Now when I say increment value, detected an action with the type, but why it is not updated? Counter increment being dispatched. Make sure you're calling the action creator before dispatching. Oh, sorry.
Increment
I
needs
gave
to
it as a
come.
variable. It should be a method, right? Sorry. Okay, reload the page. Now when I click on increment, is it is getting updated? So I am doing it into one single store and all the component could able to access it. You see, I mean, all the components could able to access the same store location. So when we want this dispatcher, okay, coming to Swati's question. So Swati, why the reason I'm exporting this guy? If the user want to do any type of actions on this, these are the only things what I'm providing. If the user has to update his name, okay, what I have to do now? Let us, where I go back. Okay, let us say, for example, I'll say const user name equal to
So
use
that
select.
means the interactive actions means the reducer methods, right?
Sorry, ma'am. Internally?
Actions means the reducer methods.
Yes, exactly. Okay, now I say username, counter is so-and-so, username is so-and-so. Come back and reload the value. Why the username is not coming? State dot username counter dot. Okay, what is the key we have given? Okay, we gave it as name. Dot name. Okay, come back and reload. Raj is the one what I have. Now my expectation is I have to update this name also. Under counter 2, I will give an action. I will say button update user name. Okay, now I'll say on click equal to update user name, or else I'll say handle update. Okay, this is the general syntax what we have to follow. Update handle update name. Function handle update name. Now, in order to update the name, what he has to do? He has to go with something called dispatcher. But before that, you need to make use of use dispatch from this guy. Create a variable for this where dispatcher is equal to use dispatch, and this dispatcher has to take one action. What is that action? If you see under the slice, we gave it as update name. Now, in order to call this update name, first of all, this component 2 has to import that action, right? I need to say import import update name from slice. Now I can simply say dispatcher update name. Right now, I would like to give the name here. I would like to say something called as Mr. Krishna. Okay, now it will come to the slice here. Okay, now I will say, right now, don't take the value. I'll say state dot name is equal to, I'll hard code this Krishna. Okay, let us see whether it is getting updated or not. When I am reloading the page, you see the value is 100. When I say increment, all other components are getting updated. When I click on update, all other components are, you see this guy is updating, but other component also got updated the data. Why so? It is coming from the same store. Now, what is the given value? How you are going to update it? We'll see, because you know, like the state guy, let us console dot log state. Let us see what is the state we are going to receive here whenever I'm clicking on this update. When I'm clicking on this update here, you see under this state, okay, handlers are the one which is coming. Okay, 1 second. Where is the slicer? Payload. Save this, reload this. Now once I click on update name, you see the payload is coming as Krishna. This is the data what we are going to have. Now I simply say, or else I'll say action, I'll say it'll be better, so that it'll be state.name is equal to action.payload. Save this and reload. Now you see update username Krishna, not Krishna. I will give something else. Where is that? Instead of Krishna, I'll say something called as Prasad. Whatever the value you give an update, it will be automatically updated here.
Sir,
So,
but we are passing only one parameter here in line number 7 in the dispatcher update name Prasad.
Okay.
Yeah, but how it will take the second argument in the.
That is where actions are coming. If you come back to our previous discussion, if we were discussing about reducers, right? Function, reducer. Okay, under that, reducer was automatically getting with action and payload. Yes or no? Or else let's open our previous example itself. Where is the example of use reducer? You see, use reducer. Under that, use reducer here. Now, here we see reducer state. We have not added any switch case here. Okay, so here, use demo. Use reducer. If you see, when I'm calling, okay, here also we have just dispatched this guy, but we have not got the state and action. I mean, by default, it will be getting it. Okay, it is not like, boss, I'm calling only one value here. You see, when I'm saying the dispatcher update here, this value will be automatically passed as a payload. And forget about this one parameter, two parameter. You may also ask me a question. We are directly passing this as a string, but when it is coming over here, when you click on this update name, did I remove the console? Slice, counter slice. Okay, when I click on update, another question what you need to ask is, how come it has become into an object where type is coming, where payload is coming, but we were passing the Prasad as an individual string, right? How come this has happened? That is what the wrapper is doing here. It will automatically get the current state of that guy. At the same time, what is the action and the payload what user has passed. It is not like it is when you call this dispatcher, when you call this dispatcher increment, it is not like directly increment will be called. If that is the case, you have directly called the increment only, right? Why the reason you're doing this dispatcher here? Am I clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead, please.
In the store.js file, you mentioned counter reducer, but that is imported from the slice file, right? But I don't find the counter reducer in the slicer.
That is what we discussed earlier, right? any reducers, my expectation is, the reason why I'm doing is import the reducers from the slice. Okay, when I go to the slice, you say that there is nothing called as counter slice. But if you see counter slice dot reducer, this guy is the default guy. So anything by default, whatever you are exporting, my expectation of saying this guy is the default one is there, right? It will be into counter reducer. Instead of that, you can say Prasad also. And now this guy will be Prasad. So what is this Prasad? The default thing, the default part which is inside dot slice. What is the default part which is reducers? This reference will be automatically coming into this Prasad variable. That Prasad I'm giving to this counter. Instead of Prasad, I'm giving a meaningful name which is counter reducer.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
The name which you have mentioned, is it mandatory?
Line number, ma'am?
I think in the slides
Under slice, okay. Which one?
at the beginning.
This guy,
Yeah,
right?
line
As I
number.
mentioned, right? Right now, if you have one single slice, I think it should be reload the page. You see, name is a mandatory field here. Name, initial state, and reducers are the mandatory fields for this create slice object. But we are not going to make use of it. As I mentioned, right? If you have multiple slices, to differentiate between the slices, we'll be using this name. Next. Come on, guys. Any questions, please let me know, because this is a bit of tricky. But once we really understand this guy, right, implementing in the project is as smoother as it will be. We'll see those when we're implementing in the project also. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So this is currently explained. This is the example of Redux toolkit only, not Redux.
Again, I mean, if it is Redux in the sense, Redux toolkit in the sense, Redux also be there. If you see, this create slice. Earlier, in case of your Redux, we used to have dedicated reducers, dedicated reducers and dedication actions we used to go for. But this create slice guy, they have combined everything. It was so easy. Now, when you go to this component, I mean, initially creating the store and creating slice is a bit of tricky part, but once it is created, how simple it is. Okay, if I have to use the data, okay, coming to the component 2, yeah, component 1, I'll say, I have to use the data from the store. How simple it is. Just say use selector. What is the field you want to go for? Done. Okay. If I have to do any dispatching, I have to do any actions, how simple it is. You say directly use dispatch. Okay, this is React Redux guy. You simply say dispatcher, what is the action you want to go? Done. But earlier, this was not the case when you go with the Redux. You need to say dispatcher, etc. I mean, a bit of extra statements. When I say Redux toolkit, which internally holds, I mean, which is internally on the top of Redux only. Without Redux toolkit is not going to work. But yeah, on the example, what we have seen is Redux. I mean, these two methods, right? Whenever you use these two methods, configure, store, and create slice, the two predefined methods coming from the Redux toolkit only. And think like here we have seen, right? You see this create slice, Redux toolkit, this configure, store, Redux toolkit only. It is on the top of, in the background, the Redux is there.
Okay.
Any more questions?
One more question.
Go ahead,
Did
Satish.
you mention anything on the app JSX file for the regarding the counter reducer?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat that again, please?
So for the counter reducer, do you need to mention in the app JSX
No.
file?
In
Nothing.
the app, I need to specify that what all the set of components who want to make use of this store. That's it. What all the component. Now, if I take this provider, I keep it inside your main.jsx, done. That indicates that anything under this app component, everyone can make use of that store. This line number 93 is mentioning that what component has to access store. That's it.
Thanks.
Okay, nothing counter, etc. Nothing we are saying. Because when I'm saying this line number 93, you see these components are getting the accessibility of this main orange box. This guy, they are getting access to. This guy, they are getting access to. Now on the top, what slice you need to access, that we are going to do.
Yeah, store-wise, I'm good. Only thing in the reducer side, I'm a little confusion, but
Okay.
I think I'm going to test myself.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Sir, here I have a doubt.
Go ahead.
Store keyword is there, no? Is it mandatory or we can give any name?
This store is a keyword. This key is
Yeah.
a keyword. Value what you're giving is not a predefined. If you see here, I simply said like import store from so and so. When I go to
Yeah.
this store, again, configure store. This is the store which is coming automatically. How come? Because I mentioned it as a default. Otherwise, you need to say where my store, and again you need to export these guy. Lot of things need to be done. Simple thing is make it as export default. Now this guy by default, anyone who imports in your app.js, it will be coming like a store. I say that no, it is my store. You can do that. Take this my store and give this guy a name. But this key is mandatory. Sorry, predefined. Value is user defined.
Yeah. Okay.
Next.
Yes, sir. If we use like any other state management tools like Zustand or Mobex, the process is same, sir. Like we need to write a store or like maybe slice. This process is same or is different?
Process is different, Narendra. Okay. That is like if you go to a different state management,
Yeah,
the
maybe.
process, I mean, the concept is I need to have this big orange box. Under that, I need to have this sub boxes where I can access the data. But how do you create this store? How do you, or do we have the slices concept or not? We are not very much sure, isn't it? Now, when I go with something called as Zustand. Where is the document? Zustand. Okay, if you go over here, so this icon indicates he's standing in Zeus. Okay, installation Zustand. So use beer. So you see, they're saying like create, not like create store also. They're saying like create. Under that, they're taking a set and increase position, remove all. Okay, these all are the actions. You see, this is the initial state, and these are the actions they are doing. Now, how to bind your components inside this? Beers equal to use beer. Okay, this is how it is. But how we are specifying the main store? I mean, how we specify to the component? I think this guy doesn't have the. Okay, what is the comparison? Okay, that is good. They are saying like, what is the difference between this Zustand if it is so and so and Redux? You see, in Redux, we are going with create store, use dispatcher, so and so. But now what he is saying, you simply say create. Okay, I mean, create has been imported. Action, state, you see automatically, this is the reducer. They also have this reducer concept, state and action. Based on the action, this is going to have use counter. I think here in this case, you don't need to mention the component which is related to the particular store. Provider concept is not there. Render optimization, maybe they are comparing this.
Yeah, why we only choose Redux means like it is having advanced version or something like that, sir. Like what is the maybe concrete answer which we need to give somebody can ask.
Concrete, right? Okay, as I think like yesterday also someone asking the same. If
Yeah.
someone asks that we have Zustand, we have Copile, or we have Redux, we have Redux Toolkit. How do you choose the particular state management is? First thing is because we are not comparing. We cannot say that performance issues, performance is high, etc. If you say that performance is high, did you do that? No, right? So instead, it will be always third-party libraries always depends on their popularity. I mean, you guys tell me before joining the class, if I have 100 people, I can say that 80% people would have heard about this Redux. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, right? But at least 20% people know what do you mean by zoo stand? No. Right? I mean, after we discuss that zoo stand is also there, that is where we get to know that, okay, zoo stand is also one of the state management. Okay. In the same way, we have different state management. Not everything is popular. Do you think that React and Angular are also only there? We have a lot of other libraries also. Vue.js, Cane.js, Backbone.js, Knockout.js, Next.js. A lot of libraries are there. Why only React people are being hired? Why only Angular is being used much? Why only Next.js? Why not others? It's all depends on the popularity and like bigger organizations using this state management and using the Redux. There is never a case like people mentioned that there are issues being raised and all. So it's all the popularity based on which we are going to make use of the what do you say, the particular library.
Oh.
Okay, and at the same time, you being a developer, there is never a case like you will be deciding that I will be going for this library. It's like organization would have already specified the tech stack. Okay, this library, this React library, this state management, they will be, I mean, our solution architect level, they are going to define this, what library has to be used. But yeah, again, if they ask in the interview question, it's all the popularity. You can put the same question. I mean, how many people know that what about the zoo stand or other libraries? How many people know about the Redux? So that itself will answer that. Okay.
Okay.
But I recommend if you guys have some time, open the zoo stand and try to do some sample. You see, like we have done this Redux sample. Have I gone with anything? I just gone to the documentation. I followed the same step. It is done. Right? In the same way, just open the documentation and try to do that, guys. I mean, that will be really, really helpful for you. Try for that. If you want any help, I can help out there. Just to have an extra idea, that's it, how it is different. And it is always good, like when you know, when you go with the interviews, right? If they ask you, what are the state management libraries? Okay, don't just stop with Redux and Redux Toolkit. It's always good, like if you add two more names for that, so that they will get an idea that, yeah, he knows or she knows everything about in and out, not just only restricting this. You may say the answer saying like, yes, we have some state managements like Zoo Stand, Redux or Redux Toolkit. I'm not much familiar with the Zoo Stand, but yeah, I know that it is one of the competitor for the Redux. Done. Okay. Next. Any, go ahead.
Yeah, coming to the state management, sir. So React is fine, like currently I know how can we achieve. But coming to the Angular, sir, like that is a different kind of document. Like what are the steps to use the Redux in the Angular, sir? Like this Redux.
Using the steps in Angular will be different, right? Now, if you see, when we are going with this Redux itself, with React Redux, now I say Angular Redux. You see here, he has created a separate page for the Angular Redux also. Now, how do you start with? You see the quick start installation. What is the module we are going to install? Redux.js, which is specifically for the Angular. Okay, now in the same way, how you're going to, after installation, how you're bootstrapping this. You see, I mean, in your React, we were making it as provider component, but here we have to bootstrap it. Okay, what all the list of providers you're defining this stores. And you see at the rate component, this is all the TypeScript, right? Mandatorily TypeScript. So this is how they're defining. You see, these all are the action. Concept internally will be same. The same, what do you say? The syntax will be different. Maybe if you really want to go for that, just explore this web page. Clear?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions? So what do you think? Redux is simple or complex?
For recoil also, they have a documentation.
Yes, ma'am. For every API, right? If I say recoil state management, if you go for this, everything, that is the reason I was keep on telling you guys, any library nowadays, don't go into the PDF files or notes and all, just to go to the web page and do the things from there itself. They have, I mean, everyone is very good with providing the better documentation. Just go into the documentation. You see, they said like, how do we install? How do we save it? How do you run it? Everything simple step. On the top, you see, for example, getting started. How do we start? You need to say my app, so and so, so and so. You see how you're going to, these all are importing. Like how do we create a store? Instead of store, he's saying like atoms. Okay, under that, how you're going to make use. Every other guy has its own documentation, man.
Okay.
You want to explore? Recoil Swati? Yes, sorry, Sri.
Sir, I mean, I heard too many
Okay,
this.
yeah, try for that. I mean, it's always, as I said, right? You don't need to get too much deeper on it. When you go with the interviews, right? If I am the interviewer, I always feel good. I mean, it really gives an extra impression for me when you say that, okay, if I ask you what state management, if you just stop with Redux and Redux toolkit, everyone knows that. Instead of that, boss, yes, the state management libraries are light state management, which is by default in your React by using a combination of use context and use reducer, or recoil is the state management, zoostand is the state management. So these are all the libraries we have. I know I have an idea, but not practically implemented. But practically, I have worked with the practically, I have worked with
Reduction.
this Redux. That's
Reduction.
it. That gives a very good impression for the developers. Sorry, for the interviewers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Sir, in store.js file,
Going
we
back
have
there. Okay.
kept reducers, sir.
Mhm.
And we can add any other thing also, like we have passed it as an object. Instead that we can pass anything more.
Okay. Then in that case, if you really want to understand the configure store, right? Let us go with the documentation. That's a good question. I mean, other than reducers, what all we can go for? React Redux. I'll go to this guy, configure store. Not this. I'll say configure store. You see here, configure store. Okay, only reducers is the one what they have given everywhere. Let us say configure store. This is actions. Actions, extends, tuples. Configure store. Okay. You see, reducer it is taking, middleware it is taking, whether to enable Redux DevTools integration or not. Okay, at the same time, DevTools a Boolean value. At the same time, duplicate middleware. Okay, or preload state enhancer. So these are the other things what you're taking. But honestly, I'm telling, in my experience, I have always gone with the reducer. These all are like optional, not mandatory. I have ever used this. But yeah, Redux DevTools is also there. That also we can enable by using this. You see, DevTools Boolean, which will be enabling the store DevTools. We will see that. Okay. So anytime, right? If you really have to know the definition of any other method, right? Say, for example, under your slice, I want to know what this create slice is doing. Just press Control and click on this. It will take you to the definition. Now here you will understand that what all the things it is taking, name it is taking, selectors it is taking. So these all are like, it will give you the exact definition of that method. But these all are in the TypeScript. Until unless you understand TypeScript, you won't be understanding this. Okay, but yeah, that is how you can explore the definition of it. Any questions?
So what is meant by payload?
What is the payload? The data what we pass as a parameter, right? Now under this component 3, whenever you see increment, payload we are not passing. When you say update name, now when you say update name, this Prasad, it will be passed as the state, and it will be passing something called as some payload. What is that payload? It is automatically creating an object, something called as payload as a keyword. Under that, whatever the parameter you pass, that will be passed like this. We are passing as individual string, but that will be internally wrapping that into a key called as payload with all the data. In general, it is recommended instead of Prasad, you make it as an object, say some name as Prasad, like this. Now this guy, payload, will be this object. Whatever the data you're passing, that will be coming like this. Whatever the data you pass, that will be under a key called as payload. That is the reason when I am reading the data into the slice, I'm saying like action.payload. I mean, this parameter, under that there is a key called as payload. Am I clear?
So payload means only parameters which we have passed.
Yes, the parameters what we were passing for the action methods, whatever we are calling, whatever the action methods we are calling here, right? So for example, if you say, let us remove this, update name, and say something called as location, something called as Hyderabad. I say pin, say some 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, these are the 3 values what you're passing. Save this, come back to the slice. When you say action, right? Let us see what is going to happen. Once you reload the page, once I click on update username, why there is an error, I know that. We'll see that. Now, if you see, if I'm coming to this payload, what is the payload? Whatever the data you're passing, that is in the form of an object like this, under the payload. Now, the payload will be action.payload.name, because like the name is under this guy. Save this guy, come back, reload the page. When you say update username, you see this is coming. Got it? What do you mean by payload?
Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Sorry, guys. I mean, I missed the chat questions. How we pass the state in the update method? By default, the state is coming, right? Why the reason? We don't need to pass the state here. If you see this state, I don't need to pass. It'll automatically get what is the current state, what is the new changes, what user has added. Clear, Pravat? Chaitanya, why an increment function is not using action and it is usually used for updating in slice.js? It is up to me, right? I mean, it's up to me, right? I mean, this is not a predefined action, right? Under that, what all the logic I want to go, it's up to me. Either incrementing, I will say increment, but I will do decrement. I will say increment, but I will hard code. It's up to me, right? Under this increment, you will get the state value, you will get the action value. You see, this guy also will be getting the action. It's up to you whether you use it or not. But if I say, if I use that parameter and update it, I will use it. That's it. Okay, can I call API from a reducer IR slice? Again, understand the question, Pallavi, here. Do we really need to hit the data? Why we are going with the state? What is a state guy is going to do? The state guy is, the store guy is holding the data. To work with the data, we will be using the slicers, right? Now, under the slicer actions, you are saying that, boss, can I update can I call a API call? Under this, you can do whatever you want, but that is not the recommended way. If you really have to, I mean, you want to call an API and you want to get the data under the component itself, when I click on updated name, here you do the API call. Okay, under the component, you do the API call. Whatever the response you're getting, now you dispatch that response. I mean, make use of the slicer to only work with the data in the state, not to do other actions. But nothing is restricting you. But in general, don't put that business logic into your slices. Slicer responsibility is combination of action and the reducers to update the state data. That's it. Am I clear, ma'am? Pallavi?
Yes, sir. Sir, so
Okay.
means inside the reducer or in slice, we can just do the some kind of simple operations like we
Yeah,
do
we can do
increment or
anything. That is
decrement.
what I said. This is a plain JavaScript method. Under this, whatever you want to do, you just do it. Nothing is stopping. But it is recommended to not to do. This is mainly, this reducer is to update the state values. You get the state data, you do whatever you want. And in order, that is what I said, right? Here you want to have a data. That data has to be updated into the state. You do the API call in the component logic itself. That response, whatever you're getting, now you dispatch it. Then that guy will take care of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pause it for today, guys. We'll meet again back on tomorrow. Everybody just do the revision of all this. In the tomorrow's class, we'll be discussing about the routing feature. Okay, how